All right, action 2025. Continuing my ongoing repair of this bicycle shock, I did find a place that would affordably rebuild this factory one, which I think would be the best option. They're out of Missouri. I wish I could remember the name. There's been a few places, Traction Dynamics in Georgia, another place in Colorado. They're out there. There's a good bike shop in Duluth, the Ski Hut, that you can get them, all the seals. They run off air, so you have to connect an air hose here, and they run off real high pressure. I've got a pump that it's got a little lever. You can twist it so one part pumps up the tire and one the shock here. But I never really like having to pump it up, especially if it could be very cold or then hot, or it's just if you're on the bike for a long time, it just gets more and more annoying having to pump it up. Maybe it'll work great if the seals are brand new, but I don't know. So I put all that together, and at the time I didn't know about the place in Missouri for $100. So I bought this. It came from eBay. I'd like to say the name of the company. It'd be cool if I could get it, but they're out there. I'm guessing there's a few different companies that make them. They're kind of universal. Like, I had to go through and find the width of these bushings and try to get this as close as I could. You can specify, what size bushing, to fit into that slot where the fork came out of. But what went wrong with this one, besides just getting old and the seals, is a bent bolt. And you can see it's not a lot that holds you up on these bicycles. Right now I've got a grade 8 bolt I bought for this because the shop said that the most common thing I would have to get myself is the bolt. Like, they would be able to replace these little bushings here that go into the shock and everything. Pretty good deal. If it wasn't for a couple things, like I ordered the thing. The people were super nice about this and got me the right size. I ordered the thing. But even at that, it's got a return policy. I could try and return it. I get into another problem, though. This is the bottom bolt that bent. But the top bolt, technically, here, where I'm pushing the thing through, it's technically wallered out a bit. Like, it's nice and tight there, but then it's not bad, but it moves around a little. So, and there's always like a squeak, squeak, squeak. Real annoying when you're pedaling. I mean, they're always going to be somewhere, but if you're bike packing a long ways. I know, I'm a dork. I've got bikes. Maybe somebody out here works on them. I don't know. Definitely. I definitely advise people to seek advice from the professionals, but like, this is a 2004 bicycle. There's not a lot of professionals that seem to even want to work on it. And gee whiz, it's probably $1,800 or so in its heyday or whatever, maybe more. Why not keep it alive? It's a beautiful bike, besides just having a bad suspension, which I would advise people just to get a rigid back and a rigid fork. That's another thing, talking about the front fork. This is the stock spring fork, so it runs off springs like this. Again, not high air pressure, so very reliable. It still works quite well. I've definitely put this bike through the ringer if Mean Gene had. I mean, and Mean Gene was a solid, gosh, I could only imagine at least 300 pounds. The guy that had the bike before me. So if I go with this, the next thing came the hardware, and it cost me like $13, but I picked some 8mm grade 8 bolts up, and all I can just say is it's tight. Like, to get this big bolt, I'm saying you got to drill it out, I mean, there's not a lot of meat on that frame there. So, I mean, I'll get it through there, I think. But it's just, it really makes you say, oh, okay, I see why people just had to discard the frame. Because, I mean, it's not, you can pick up a used bike pretty cheap. So it's like, why would, I like keep Mean Gene's bike going, and I like it, so I'm not wasteful. If I can fix it, I will. So I think this was like 76 bucks. There's cheaper ones, there's more expensive ones, and they make a generic. I don't want to say generic because, I mean, who knows, theirs might be better, but they do make, you can buy these with the air pressure from the same factory. I just went with the spring. It's twice as heavy. It's like curling a big weight, but I just thought it would be cool to have the bike as reliable as possible. And if you're ever like riding long distance or whatever, I felt like the spokes were the least reliable. They break, so I've got that out of it. I've got a really nice, comfortable set of handlebars and good shifters, and these brakes are like factory brakes, just amazing how long they last. I mean, I've never even changed the fluid in them, but I have to get it in there. And it's just, if this was any tighter than a buck's rear than it is, especially when you get into here, basically instead of the, you know, the big thick bolts I have, I will have to buy a bolt made for a mountain bike, which I didn't even know exists, which makes sense that they would. They're like $7 a piece, and you've got, talk about it here, the bolt for the mountain bike. It's the same 8mm bolt, but what's interesting about it is, instead of being threaded on the outside here, like the inside is threaded, and there's another screw that goes into that. And you know, I could probably make these work, but gee whiz, it's like $13 worth of hardware, these grade 8 bolts and stainless nuts and washers. I'll get what's for the mountain bike and go on and keep going. I don't know precisely why Specialized put this red spacer on the bike, maybe just to give it a little more strength on one side of it or something. Oh, and I had to magnetize, I mean, I had to check it. So I was like, well, what if they put some sort of a steel sleeve in here? You know, they threaded it, so the way this mounts, theirs is pretty slick. This bolt, we'll just grab the bent one that came out of it. It just pops through there and screws in. It's threaded. Real easy to get it in and out, and I'm surprised the threads last. They don't really look that great, but they're good. You know, for being a 2005 bike, one could just thread this back in. And I'm not so certain. I'm going to check it out. I'm not so certain it's not a little wallered out over on the other side. But I mean, hindsight 2020, I probably could have just, I called Bushwhacker, the bike shop in Peoria, Illinois, and they were pretty helpful. Wyatt was on the phone and said, yeah, man, we got a place in Missouri, we send them. And then the people are so nice that work on these bikes. It's worth having it for a hobby, because you just make pretty good friends. Out here, I'm just by myself. Gosh knows the ladies don't want me. I just ride bikes around, so it's like I gotta have some pretty good, cool friends, you know, that are into the same stuff, like-mindedness. So, not really. I mean, I prefer a diverse situation of friends, but I mean, all the people with the bikes seem really nice. They like the outdoors. They are for, like, you know, protecting the environment. You might think I'm a sissy. Oh, he's one of them guys want to protect the environment. Yeah, I like to go out biking and hiking and breathe clean air and have good drinking water. So, yeah, it's an easy enough cause for me to join. I'm not some big activist, but I'll quit talking. Sun's going down.